Okay, this is God's Family Plan 21 of 24. Caring for Parents. Hello everybody, welcome. I'm Jim McCotter. For sons and daughters to keep the fifth commandment to honor their father and mother, it's not just to obey parents, but to care for them when they are older and in need. Parents cared for their children in their early years. Children should care for their parents in their later years when they are in need. Would it not be shameful if when parents had babies, they shipped them off to live at some institution to be cared for and raised and to only be seen on occasional visits? And how would the children feel about that? Should it be any less shameful for adult children to ship off their elderly parents to live at some institution to only visit them once in a while until they die? And how do you think that parent would feel? If they say they like it, it's only because they like it better than living on their own or with their children they feel aren't really happy to care for them. Solomon made this public declaration in Proverbs 19:26. They who mistreat their father or chase away their mother are shameful and a public disgrace. Even if you reject all I'm saying here, God says for the family to take care of their elderly lone parent. 1 Timothy 5:3-4. Quote, take care of any widow who has no one else to care for her. But if she has children or grandchildren, their first responsibility is to show godliness at home and repay their parents by taking care of them. This is something that pleases God. End quote. Old Testament family model. Abraham's example. God told Abraham to, quote, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you, end quote. But the Lord did not tell Abraham to leave his father. Even though God spoke to Abraham, Abraham still looked to his father even in leaving Chaldea. His father continued to lead the family. Quote, Terah took his son Abram and moved away from Ur of the Chaldeans, end quote. Abraham never left caring for his father even until his father's death at 205 years. Abraham did this before carrying on with the rest of his life mission going to the promised land of Canaan. But Abraham eventually got there in God's time and in God's way, never leaving his father's side. Jacob's example. God loved Jacob but hated his brother Esau. Jacob honored his father's birthright where Esau did not. Jacob followed his father's direction as to who he should marry where Esau did not. Jacob took his family back to live near his father until his father's death. David's example. David never neglected taking care of his father and mother, even when he was running for his life from King Saul, who was chasing after David to kill him. 1 Samuel chapter 22, verse 1-4. Quote, so David left Gath and escaped to the cave of Adullam. Later David went to Mizpah in Moab, where he asked the king, please allow my father and mother to live here with you until I know what God is going to do for me. So David's parents stayed in Moab with the king during the entire time David was living in his stronghold. Ruth's example. When Naomi's daughter-in-law Ruth had a son, note what the town women assumed the son would do for Naomi when she was older. And also note how the women said that Ruth had been towards her mother-in-law, Naomi. Ruth 4:14-15. Then the women of the town said to Naomi, praise the Lord who has now provided a redeemer for your family. May this child be famous in Israel, and may he restore your youth and care for you in your old age. For he is the son of your daughter-in-law who loves you and has been better to you than 7 sons. The New Testament family model. God's welfare program. That model is not for the state to do, but for the family to carry out. 1 Timothy chapter 5 gives the 3 priority family model of responsibility to care for a parent in need. Number 1, the care to be taken by the immediate family. Or number 2, the care to be taken by the extended family. Or finally, number 3, the care to be taken by the church family. The Living Bible says in 1 Timothy 5:8, quote, anyone who won't care for his own relatives when they need help, especially those of his own family, has no right to say he is a Christian. Such a person is worse than the heathen." End quote. Peter's example. When the Apostle Peter's mother-in-law no longer had her husband, even when she did not need assisted living, Peter had her live in his home with them. Matthew 8:14 and 15. When Jesus arrived at Peter's house, Peter's mother-in-law was sick and in bed with a high fever. But when Jesus touched her hand, the fever left her. Then she got up and prepared a meal for him. End quote. Jesus obviously blessed this living arrangement. God's family plan is for grandparents, parents, and their children to work together as there is need to bless one another. None will be left out of blessing and being blessed if they follow God's family plan. Those at any time in their life who may be giving up more helping family will be blessed more. Jesus said in Acts 20:35, quote, "It's always more of a blessing to give than to receive," end quote. God's family plan is to be multi-generational in caring for one another. Jesus' command. Jesus even confirmed with civil law that there should be the death penalty if adult children don't honor their parent and take care of their parent. And the specific example Jesus gave was to help your parents when they have need. Matthew 15, verse 4 and 6, quote, Jesus said, "For God said, honor your father and mother, and anyone who speaks disrespectfully of father or mother must be put to death. But you say it's all right for people to say to their parents, 'Sorry, I can't help you, for I have vowed to give to God what I would have given you.' In this way, you say they don't need to honor their parents." Jesus' example. It's profound to think about Jesus being the perfect model. While he was suffering on the cross, the last thing Jesus did was to make sure his mother was cared for. John 19:25 through 27 says, quote, "Standing near the cross was Jesus' mother. When Jesus saw his mother standing there beside the disciple he loved, he said to her, 'Dear woman, here is your son.' And he said to this disciple, 'Here is your mother.' And from then on, this disciple took her into his home." End quote. Son or daughter, if you want to be like Jesus, no matter what you're going through, you will always think about taking care of your father or mother if they are alone or in need, even if you're hanging on a cross. What a family model Jesus was. We usually don't think about this when it comes to being a disciple of Jesus. But if we are a real disciple of Jesus according to his command and example, we will never neglect caring for our parents as long as they are alive.